So, all right. So here's the backstory, right? I got my video done. I got my raw, real footage done, and I was going to transfer, put them all together and add the stuff that I need to add. Got it all done, and I went in and I said, you know what, I should probably clear my, files because I've got a lot of data on my computer now. So I went in, deleted all my videos, and forgot to not delete the ones I just did. I haven't put them together yet. So this is part two. Now, one of the reasons why I did them so early in the morning is because I have people doing construction in the front of the house right now. So here's how this is going to work. I am going to do my gosh darn best to get these videos done before the power tools come out. But the power tools may very well come out. And once the power tools come out, the dogs are going to go crazy. And I'm going to continue to carry on just like nothing had happened. So here we go. All right, so here's the deal. You've actually, this is something that I know a lot of you have actually been looking forward to talking about. And I know this because you've approached me and said, hey, we're going to talk about starting businesses. A lot of you, every semester, invariably, I have people who are very interested in starting their own businesses. And this is something that I also have a little bit of like personal experience with because, my wife and I have started a business that, it's me. I'm by virtue of being married to my wife, who is the one that's running the business. So we have some firsthand experiences of starting small businesses, and now we have some firsthand experience of trying to navigate that small business through some kind of rough economic terrain. So I got some stuff to share with you. If you have any questions, you can always contact me. So how do you do it? How do you get started on your small business? Well, the very first thing that you should do, really, is go to Mr. Andosha's classroom page and go to Honors Economics and scroll down, and I have all kinds of links there for you, local links for starting your own local business. And the beauty of it is that the county and your local community, they want more businesses in their community. More businesses means more employment, more people paying taxes. It's a good deal for them. So they really go out of their way. They bend over backwards to make sure that businesses can get themselves going and get started in the local area. So if you want, just go to Mr. Andosha's classroom, scroll down, link in. I've done it. My wife has done it. I had a business way back when I was I think I was 22, 23. I started a tutoring business. The people are very nice. They are very, very patient. They are very accommodating. They're willing to help you navigate the proverbial maze of bureaucracy that is necessary to get started in your business. Now, once you get that, now the next question you have to ask yourself is, where do I get the money? Right? How do I get this thing going? And this money, this is called, no, hold on. Come here, little girl, come here. It's okay. I know you hear, I don't know if you don't hear because you're deaf, but you know something's going on. It's okay, pretty girl. You stay here. All right, so I'm going to give this lecture with a Doberman in my lap. So where do you get the money? And this is important. Oh, that's not good. This is no, go that way. There you go. This is important for a number of reasons, right? And especially, you guys are young, so you don't have an awful lot of expenses, but you probably have some expenses. And the longer you wait, you start dealing with, now you have mortgages, you need stuff like that. So you need to have money. And many of you will be established in jobs, right? And the reality is in order to really get a business going, she's spinning. That's how she gets oriented. So anyway, so you've got houses, you've got kids, you've got income, and you're going to have to probably give that up, right? You're going to have to give up that income, and that's scary because that's guaranteed income. Where do you get the money, right? Where do you get the money? How do you stay afloat? The bank still wants its mortgage payment. The insurance still wants their premiums. The electric company, they still want you to pay your bill. They don't want to hear that you're in business, right? And you're just getting started and you need a bit of a break. No. You got to have that money. So where do you get the money? So the first question, part one of this lecture is, where do you get the money? So now the most obvious answer to this is save it up, right? personal capital, you put money aside and you save enough so that you have enough money to get started in your business. Okay, it's okay. Shh. All right, well, that's sometimes easier said than done, right? And a lot of us don't make an awful lot of money, and sometimes it takes a lot of capital to get a business going, right? So, so there's that. There's also extending your own personal credit, right? Building up credit and being able to access loans, especially business loans or personal loans. Business loans usually give you a better rate. Not necessarily the easiest to get, though. Getting those business loans to help you get money. This money is called seed money, right? Or seed capital, money that you need to get started in your business. And this is the direction, actually, that my wife and I went. She wanted to start this business that was potentially lucrative, and that meant giving up her job, right? She worked for the school district. So if she worked for the school district, she wasn't going to have an awful lot of time to put into this particular job. So that meant quitting a job that she's had for 10 years, 15 years, right? That takes a lot of courage. That is not an easy thing to do, to give up that income. How do we get through? The next problem that we had was that our business, she was billing insurance companies, so there was going to be a lag between the time that she provided the service and the time that she was going to get paid. How do we get through that lag? So we fortunately have decent credit. We were able to access that credit and get a small loan that helped us get through that dry period before the check started to come in and the business started to make money. And this worked out pretty well. It was the thing of beauty. It was just recently we paid off that loan. It's done. It's gone. And that was the seed capital that was necessary to help us start the company. Another option is, I'm going to skip down to number 4 actually, is what you call entrepreneurial incubators. Entrepreneurial incubators, I don't necessarily know if the entrepreneurial incubators are not necessarily your source of money, but they are organizations, either private organizations or public organizations, that can steer you toward folks who have the capital that are willing to invest in it, or steer you toward institutions that are willing to get you the best rates on accessing your personal credit, right? These are called entrepreneurial incubators, and I will have some information on that on the website and on Classroom. Your next step is venture capitalists. Now, remember when we did our Shark Tank project, right? Your goal was to pitch to a venture capitalist. Your venture capitalist is somebody who they're willing to invest. They think you got yourself a nice little business or a great business idea. They're willing to invest in that idea, but they are willing to invest in that idea in exchange for equity. In other words, they want a part of your business, right? They're not just making you a loan. They want equity. They want ownership in your business. And they're not going to want massive, maybe 10% ownership, 20%, depends on what level of risk they feel that they're taking, but they're going to want equity. And in this case, this is what we refer to as private equity, all right? In other words, you're not selling your stocks out on a public market like the New York Stock Exchange or anything like that, but you can sell stocks, you can sell shares in your company, in your business, to venture capitalists, assuming, of course, that you've set up a corporation and not a sole proprietorship or that kind of thing. So that's what these venture capitalists are looking for. They're looking for private equity. They're looking for ownership, and they may be willing to pay to get access to that. And you then take that money and you put that money into growing your business. Now, this becomes a bit of a problem, and that I'm going to talk about in the next part of this is how to grow your business. The venture capitalists may become a problem for you because don't forget, they have an ownership, and therefore they have a say in how your business is being run. Another option is what we call angel investors. Now, angel investors are entities, organizations, they may be individuals who are willing to invest in your business for less financial reasons. The venture capitalists, they want their money, right? The angel investors, they're willing to invest. They've got the excess cash on hand. They've got the excess capital. They're willing to invest that in your business, but it may not necessarily be a profit motive that is driving them to do it. In other words, it could be Uncle Larry, your Uncle Larry's favorite niece, and he hears that you want to start a fine furnishings business, and he's decided he loves your furnishings. He's got a house full of your furnishings. He wants to. He's going to. Here's a $50,000 loan to help you get started with your fine furnishings business, right? And the only thing Uncle Larry wants is he wants his choice of the fine furnishings when he gets the opportunity. So he's an angel investor, right? He may also be, for instance, my wife is an ABA therapist. She works mostly with autistic clients. So she may have had an angel invest. She didn't, but she may have had an angel investor who was involved in the autism awareness movement and wanted to invest in the business because they wanted to increase access to ABA services for people with autism. So they were willing to invest in that business. Now they're again looking for a return on their investment, but they're not necessarily primarily making the investment for profit reasons. I can hear the hammer starting already. All right. So anyway, so these are some of your options for getting access to capital necessary for starting your business. Okay, I think things have calmed down a little bit. The power tools have started, but they don't sound all that bad. Falcor is nice and calm. So anyway, so let's move on to part two. Part two has to do with actually growing your business. So I'm just going to put a chart up. I'll just include a chart that actually comes straight out of your textbook, really, and that kind of gives you a sense of what this process is. And I think I'll move this over a little bit. So growing your business, how do you grow your business, right? So you get your business started, you get your seed capital, you've invested your capital, you got your products, you're putting out the fine furnishings, right? And as you're putting out these fine furnishings, people are buying up the fine furnishings, and that is now your income. And of course, the chart here, the chart is going to break that in. The chart that I'm going to show in just a moment is going to break that down a little bit. So what now? Now you have a choice. And in economics, choice kind of breaks down into what we call opportunity cost, right? So you have a choice. You can take that money and put that money into the hands of the shareholders, which includes yourself, and maybe the venture capitalist who's and the angel investor who's invested in your company, or maybe partners that you've gone in with. Those are all shareholders, right? And or you can take that money and reinvest it back into the company. So here's either way, money that you can't put into, and money that you give to the shareholders is money that you can't use to grow your business. Money that you use to grow your business, you can't use to give to your shareholders, right? So here's the chart. The chart kind of breaks this down. I don't like the low. Maybe this is like when the business is really just starting out, and this is like your first week worth of income. You've sold a couple of fine furnishings, right? So here's your sales. You've got $1,000 that you've sold, but you've also had, it looks like it's about $800 worth of expenses. So that means at the end of the week you've got $200, right? No, you don't. State of Florida is going to come and get some of that. Federal government, local government, they're going to take a chunk of that. So bam, actually now you've got about, looks like $120 is your net income. And then there's a little line there that says plus depreciation. I'm not going to get into that. Just take our word for it. Depreciation has to do with accounting and taking into account the fact that the tools that you purchased, once you use them, those tools are no longer as valuable. So there are tax incentives and stuff like that to account for the depreciation of the tools that you use in your business. Actually, I'm not really all that competent with depreciation and calculating that stuff. I can give you my cousin's name; she can take care of that for you. But the bottom line is that your total cash flow at that point is $220, right? Now, what do you do with it? Right? What do you do with that $220? Now, if your business is just growing, it's just starting, it's going to require a lot of discipline on your part. Because what we're going to ask you to do then is we're going to ask you to take the bulk of that money and put it back into your company. You're going to take a big chunk of that $220, you're going to put it back into your company so that you can maybe, buy some high grade maple or something like that, so that you can make some more fine furnishings. Right? You're going to reinvest that. That's called reinvestment. Now, reinvestment that is a good idea. That's going to help you grow your business. And quite frankly, if you and a partner who is also emotionally invested in the business are the only shareholders, it's a fairly easy decision to make. What happens though when you have a venture capitalist? What happens though when you have outside investors who are not necessarily emotionally into and passionate about fine furnishings? They want their money. They want their money. And they have a stake in your business. They may be able to tell you, hey, wait a minute, no. You can't put all of that money back into this business. We want a big chunk. First, you give us our chunk, and then you can reinvest whatever's left over, right? That could be a demand that's made. Now, normally when businesses are starting up, first starting venture capitalists have a little bit of a sense of humor about that stuff, but they don't have to. And that becomes a problem. So again, that's where we start talking about in terms of the private equity. And there are actually venture capitalists who just flat out go out for the private equity. They want their money. So really, a really good example of this was Toys R Us, the company Toys R Us, right? Toys R Us was a major toy company, toy retailer. They did great until, of course, the age of Amazon kind of, knocked them down. Now, investments could have been made to make Toys R Us competitive with Amazon, and maybe they would have been okay. Maybe they would still be around. But instead, Toys R Us was purchased by a private equity firm, and that private equity firm purchased Toys R Us specifically just to suck the dollar value out of it, right? So what happened to Toys R Us? I don't know, this was some years ago, so maybe you're not familiar, but if you walked into a Toys R Us after it was purchased by the private equity company, what you found is that the shelves just started to get barer and barer and barer, and the stores started getting emptier and emptier and emptier, and there were fewer and fewer people working there, right? And that became a real problem, because what was happening is the private equity firm was saying, no, any money that you guys make this quarter, it's going to go straight to the shareholders. It is not going to go into reinvestment. We're not going to buy more toys. We're not going to, hire more people. We're not going to create online systems. We're not going to do any of that, infrastructure. We're not going to do that. So it's all going to the shareholders, and then consequently, at a certain point, then it was just a matter of selling the buildings and and mopping up the floors and being done with it. It ceased to exist. Obviously, you don't want that to happen to your business, right? But the bottom line is you have to take the demands of your shareholders into account, right? And what makes it private equity, by the way? I think I talked about it in the last video, but maybe it was the video that I deleted. But the private equity is you're basically selling shares, just like the stock market, except you're not selling them openly on the stock market. So private equity is equity that is purchased between you and somebody else. These are shares that are exchanged between you and somebody else. It's a private deal. As opposed to if you take your company and you go public with your company, what that means is now that you're going to be putting shares out and you're going to be putting stocks out on a stock exchange, and you're going to let the demand for the shares determine how many shares you put out and the value of those shares and that kind of thing. That's called going public, and that's a different process. You're not there yet. You're still dealing with the private equity, right? Either way, what you're looking at is an opportunity cost. And the trick for growing your business is balancing out your needs, the needs of your shareholders, with your desire to reinvest and grow your business. All right, so you got your fine furnishings business going. Everything's going great. You're established. You've you got lots of people working for you. Maybe you've got more than one production site. Things are going great. And in fact, actually, there's a bit of an irony to this. So you got into this fine furnishings business because you're just like really passionate about woodworking and stuff like that, and you really love woodworking. You thought it'd be a great business to get into. But now that your business is successful, guess what? You're probably not doing all that much woodworking yourself. You are hiring people to do woodworking. You have machines that are helping them do the woodworking. you're hardly touching a thing of sandpaper or a saw. You're not doing any of that stuff. You're running the business, basically. You're running the business end, and that's kind of the irony. Oftentimes, we get into these business ventures because we're passionate about something. Like my wife is very passionate about ABA and working with kids with autism. She loves doing that, and now she finds, well, most of actually the fun stuff that is the reason why she got into business in the first place is the stuff that she's got other people doing, and her job has changed to more the business end, which is not necessarily what she started out to do. But regardless, I mean, that's the price you pay for success in many cases, right? So, but the bottom line is, every business basically has one goal in mind, right? And that is they want it all, right? Every business basically endeavors to be a monopoly, right? So you've got yourself started, you've got your fine furnishings business going on, maybe there's some other companies that you're in competition with, and your goal is to control it all, right? You want all of the business, you want all of the customers coming to you, you want all of the best workers, you want them all coming to you. But you got somebody else that you're competing with, right? Somebody else is providing fine furnishings. So now what do? Right? Well, what you might want to do is something called a horizontal merger. So here's an example, right? You've got this other competitor. They are competing with you. That means that you have to lower your prices in order to compete with their prices, and it also means you may have to jack up your wages a little bit in order to get the better quality, because the better quality workers, they're going to go to the place where they make the most money. So you're going to have to spend more on your workers than you otherwise would have if you controlled it all. So what you might want to do, now you could drive the other guy out of business, you can buy out their business, but one of the best ways of doing this is to do what is called a horizontal merger. And a horizontal merger happens when two businesses within the same market, in this case fine furnishings, merge to form a single entity. So you and this other fine furnishings company merge, you get together, and maybe your last name is Jones, and yours is the Jones Fine Furnishing, and theirs is the Smith Fine Furnishing, and now you become Smith and Jones Fine Furnishing, and now you're one big firm. That is called a horizontal merger, and that makes sense. So what you do is you do a horizontal merger in order to control the market. All right, you control the fine furnishings market. Right, that's a kind of a monopoly. Now, another thing that you can also think in terms of is, all right, well, wait a minute. As a fine furnishings company, I need wood. Right? I need wood. I need tools. I need nails. Right? I need transportation. Right? I need I need floor space. Things like that. So what you might do is you might say, hey, you know what? I am going to go out and I am going to buy a lumber company, right? So you go out and you merge with a lumber company, right? And that lumber company now becomes your source of lumber, and you get the lumber cheaper than your competitor, who now has to buy the lumber. And in fact, your competitor may actually be buying the lumber from you, right? So you've purchased that lumber company. Maybe you also purchase like a tool and die company, right? So you can get your tools and your nails and screws and stuff like that from this tool and die company, rather than having to buy it through an outside entity and have to pay more. So you're controlling your costs. The more of those companies that you can merge with, the lower your costs. You can control the cost of your product, and you can sell your product cheaper than your competitors can, right? This is called a vertical merger. This is where you merge with other companies within your supply chain, right? You are not getting into the lumber business. You just want the lumber because that's part of the supply chain for fine furnishings, is the lumber, right? So that is known as a vertical merger. Now, of course, your best companies, your biggest companies, are doing some combination of both of those, right? They're doing both the horizontal mergers and the vertical mergers. So you take a company like Exxon, merges with Mobil, becomes Exxon Mobil, but Exxon Mobil also owns platforms and tool making. So they even own like some green energy companies and stuff like that. So but these are large companies. These are what you would refer to as conglomerates. A conglomerate happens when you have a firm that controls at least 4 businesses, in your case, fine furnishings, lumber, tool and die, and transportation, right? You own 4 businesses, and none of those businesses constitutes a majority of your profits, right? Just because you own the lumber company doesn't mean you're not selling lumber to other people. You're still making a profit from that. So, but that doesn't constitute a majority. That is called a conglomerate, right? Now, let's say your lumber company is actually a lumber company located in Brazil, because they can get you access to a wider variety of wood than you can, say, in the United States, right? So maybe you can get access to mahogany and things like that you otherwise wouldn't have access to in the United States. And then maybe your tool and die company is located in Germany, because that's where you get the higher quality tools and dies coming out of Germany, right? Well, now what's happened is your company has now become what's called a multinational. You own business ventures in multiple different countries, right? Again, ExxonMobil is an example of this. Disney Corporation is an example of this. Coca-Cola is a Yum Foods is an example of this. Kraft is you guys did the Cadbury thing when Kraft purchased Cadbury, right? Well, now Kraft owns Kraft Foods in the United States and Cadbury in England, and that's it was a multinational before that, but that makes it a multinational. That's a multinational deal there, right? So now, basically, you got yourself horizontally merged with other companies in your other businesses in your market. You have yourself merged with other businesses within your supply chain. You are pretty much a self-sufficient, controller of the market. In essence, you are a monopoly, and now you better hope that whoever the president is not somebody who has an interest in enforcing, antitrust laws, because then maybe your monopoly could be broken up. But anyway, congratulations on the success of your business. If you have any other questions, if you have anything that you need, please ask, Zoom, email, whatever it is that you want to do, and I will be right there for you.